everyone, and welcome to the Popular Opinions book tag. So today I'm doing the Popular Opinions book tag. I'll leave a link down below to Abby's channel where I originally saw this tag, as well as to the original video. And with that, let's get into it. Question number 1 is a popular book or series that you love. Wayward Children. I love this series. I love how quick it is to read because I love a quick book, I've got to admit, and this is just a series of novellas. I love exploring all the different worlds that are in this as well, because obviously the kids go through all of these different portals and end up sort of Alice in Wonderlanding, I guess you could call it, and before they come back to this world. I love like the acceptance of Eleanor West as well. I love how accepting she is of all of the students. I love getting to know the students as well because they're all so interesting and so different, but yeah, I can still relate to them, because one thing I find with Shauna Maguire's work is that in every single book she writes, there will be a characteristic in every single one of her characters, or at least the main ones, that I can relate to in some way. And it's got to be said that the exact same thing happens in Wayward Children, where literally all of the main characters, there is something I will relate to in her stories, and I absolutely love that. I just generally love this series. It is fantastic. Question number 2 is an underhyped book or series you love and wish was more popular. Skullduggery. Was there any other answer I could give for this? Because quite frankly, the outside book community, as in the stuff that isn't online, love this book. This is like, it's literally a bestseller, you know, and yet I see barely anybody talking about this in the book community. Literally, I have to co-host my own read-along with Hannah from Ladder M, who I'll leave a link to also down below, to actually get people to pay attention to this novel. And I'm just wondering why, because this series is so good. It's filled with such cool pop culture references. The storyline is fantastic. The plot twists will give you whiplash. They're so good. Literally, you will go, wait, what? And like, it's several points in the middle of these books, and then when you go back and reread them, you actually see the foreshadow the whole way through, which is so fascinating to read. I love the world building of this as well. I love the, like, it's just so good. It's just so good, and you are all sleeping on this series. You are all sleeping on it. You need to get on this series. Question number 3 is a romance, or basically a love triangle, or an OTP that you love. Wanda and Vision. I know this is helped by the TV show, quite frankly, and I'm fully gonna say that the TV show really helped with this, because just how much Vision loves Wanda gets me every single time, and obviously how much Wanda loves Vision gets me as well. But their dynamic as well in the comics is so interesting to read, because in the comics it's very much this idea that they want to be together and they love each other so much, but various things keep on tearing them apart. So you have this idea like the whole way through where either like the universe tears them apart in the sense that Vision ends up dying or something like this, or they have the children, then Mephisto, who helped create the children, takes them away again, and then they get sort of brought back into it again. It's very confusing. But you have this idea of losing children and bringing children back. You've got this idea of Vision becoming White Vision, which means he's basically soulless, as much as a robot can be. But as a synthezoid, Vision has like feelings and things like this. But as White Vision, he really doesn't, and it's all taken from him. So that's when they sort of end up divorcing and things like this, because he doesn't love Wanda like he used to, and he doesn't love their children either. He's very much like, you are not mine, I did not help create you, she did all of this herself with her reality warping powers and stuff like this. And I love like when Wanda's arguing with her twin Pietro over this, he calls him a toaster, which I find very interesting and very funny, and I just love their dynamic. I love their dynamic, and I love the fact as well that in the comics Vision was created from another character in the terms of his brainwaves, and when they break up, Wanda ends up dating that guy, and she gives Vision a copy of her own brainwaves, and then he creates his wife, his synthezoid wife, out of those brainwaves. And I find this really, really interesting in the idea that they love each other, but they can't properly be together in that way. They are one of the greatest romances, though. I absolutely love their relationship. They're an OTP. They are such an OTP at this point, and I absolutely adore them. Question number 4 is your favourite genre and a popular genre you want to read more from. My favourite genre is fantasy. I read a lot of fantasy, as you can tell by all my previous videos and everything else, but sci-fi is something I am working on because I read a lot of sci-fi graphic novels, in the sense I read a lot of Marvel comics, and like I said, that involves Vision quite a lot of the time, who is obviously a robot. You've got Iron Man, who makes robotics and things like this, and like stuff like the Iron Man suit, and then Ironheart, who creates the Ironheart suit, and I generally sort of deal with that kind of thing, which is very, very technological based in terms of comics and things like this, but I don't read enough like sci-fi novels. I've read, I think, like an average of like 1 a month this year, which is more than usual, to be fair, and I'm really, really enjoying them. I just want to read more sci-fi though, and I just need more sci-fi in my life, quite frankly, because I'm on a real Star Trek like kick at the moment for some reason. I ended up watching Star Trek First Contact for the first time the other week, and now I'm really into sci-fi again, and now I just want to watch all of the sci-fi and read all of the sci-fi. So yeah, basically I just want to read more sci-fi. I read a lot of fantasy, but I want to sort of bulk it up with some sci-fi as well. Question number 5 is a popular or beloved character that you love, or a character that you think deserves more love. Riri Williams deserves more love, like flat out. Like, I know that she's reasonably popular, that she's popular enough to give her a TV show, which is fantastic, but quite frankly, we need more people loving Eve Ewing's Ironheart series, because this series was incredible. Like, I have not read Riri's origins from Brian Michael Bendis, which is not usual for me because I love Brian Michael Bendis, and usually when I fall in love with a character I go back to their origin story, but I'm leaving that for when the TV show comes out. So I just jumped into Eve Ewing's Ironheart essentially, and I've never seen her in anything before, and I just fell in love with her as a character. I completely and utterly fell in love with her as a character, and I'm not over her as a character, quite frankly. I absolutely adore her. I'm desperate for more Riri in my life, and quite frankly, more people need to talk about her, because quite frankly, she's fantastic, and you're all sleeping on her, and basically, the more people talk about Riri, and the more people who love Riri, the more comics we get, which is just a good thing. It's just an all-round good thing, so I just need more people to love Riri so I can selfishly get more comics to do with Riri. Question number 6 is an auto-buy author, V. Schwab. Flat out, V. Schwab. I will buy literally anything that woman writes. I was worried about stuff like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, because that is very much not my type of story. I'm not here for like romantic stories or overly descriptive stories or slower paced stories or anything like that, but even with that one, she absolutely had me hooked from the beginning. So I mean, literally, that woman can do no wrong in my eyes at this point in terms of writing. There's just, I just love all of it. I just love all of it. Question number 7 is a popular book trope you love reading about. Is women with swords a trope? I feel like it's a trope. I'm going with women with swords, quite frankly, because there's people like Alice from A Place So Black, who I absolutely adore. There's Tanith Lowe from Skullduggery, and just Valkyrie, also a woman with a sword in the in the books and in the films, and just generally women with swords. Like Masakine, I'm forgetting about Masakine. Just women with swords, man. I love women with swords. They're just top-notch characters, quite frankly. Just women with swords are just top-notch characters, and I just love them. If I hear that there's a book with a woman with a sword in it, and I'm 10 times more interested than I probably already was. Because woman with swords. Question number 8 is a popular series that you're excited to read. The rest of the Legendborn series. I've already read the first one and I am obsessed, quite frankly. I absolutely loved this book. I was really iffy going into it, but by about 10% of the way through I was in love with it, essentially. And it left it on such a good sort of slightly cliffhangery ending that I'm now just desperate for the rest of the series immediately. I cannot wait to read the rest of this series. It's going to be so good. And finally, question number 9 is a popular book and film where you love the story in both formats. Good Omens. Flat out Good Omens. I talk a lot about Good Omens, but I'm telling you, the Good Omens book is incredible, and I absolutely adored it. It works so well for my sense of humour and things like this, and the storyline was absolutely incredible. The just world building, the characters, the character dynamics and everything else was absolutely perfect. And then the series just kicked it up a notch, quite frankly. First of all, the casting was on point. I mean, this series features so many of my favourite actors like David Tennant, Michael Sheen, Benedict Cumberbatch, Mark Gatiss. So many others are all in this series that it was to the point where I was literally reading every single casting announcement and just screaming, essentially, because it was just the most incredible thing. Like, they've even got Brian Cox as the voice of Death. Like, he wasn't my first choice. My first choice would have been Benedict, weirdly, or like Ian McKellen. Because in my mind, you've got that Ian McKellen type voice from The Hogfather, but then Brian Cox was brought up as obviously the voice of Death, and I went, oh my god, that is William Stryker from the original X-Men films, and that just got me, because obviously I'm an X-Men nerd, so that got me. Like the casting of Jack Whitehall as Newt, who is one of my favourite like comedians. Jack Whitehall is definitely one of my favourite comedians. I've been following him for years, since he first debuted on Mock the Week, and I was like, oh my god, this actor's even going to be in it. Benedict voicing Satan as well. Like, my first thought was Tom Ellis for Satan, because he plays Lucifer on Lucifer, which is another sort of spin-off sort of adaptation thing of The Sandman by Neil Gaiman, who obviously co-wrote the book and then wrote the entire series. But it was Benedict, which was even better in my mind. Just the casting, quite frankly, was on point. How it was shot was incredible, in terms of like Douglas McKinnon's work on it as well was absolutely incredible. Like, how it was literally practically word perfect, to the point where I was watching it for the first time quoting the book and it being word for word for the TV series. Like, obviously they took some bits out and stuff like this because of runtime or budget or whatever, but they got it so perfect in terms of like the book as well. And then the references to Terry Pratchett. The references to Terry Pratchett throughout it was one of my favourite things, quite frankly. The references were just incredible, to the point where if you zoom in on like a newspaper at one point, you've got the fact that it says that there's a lost book for The Colour of Magic. Please phone Uncle Terry if you find it. The Colour of Magic is one of Terry's books. You've got the fact that there's a coat and a scarf, and they are Terry Pratchett's coat and scarf in Aziraphale's bookshop that you see for a minute as well, which is incredible. It made me nearly cry the first time I saw that on Neil Gaiman's Twitter account, because it's actually described in the book that there is actually a coat and a scarf, I think, in the bookshop, and then they made it Terry's like coat and scarf as well. At one of the points you actually see a close-up on a bookshelf in the bookshop as well that's filled with Terry's books, and you've got a point where Aziraphale says mind how you go, which is a Terry Pratchett or Pratchett family phrase that they used to say to each other. It's just filled with loving references to Terry the whole way through, and that just got me a lot, because I love Terry Pratchett. I've grown up loving Terry Pratchett, so I loved all of those little bits as well. And then it was also filled with Doctor Who references. There's 2 Sherlock references as well in here, because obviously there's a lot of actors from Sherlock in the TV show and a lot of Doctor Who actors as well, but also because Douglas McKinnon has directed a lot of Sherlock episodes. He's done like 5 Sherlock episodes, so like they film outside the Diogenes Club at one point, and they talk about a detective wanted to be a pirate and things like this. But then you've also got the references to Doctor Who, like Newt's scarf, well, not Newt's scarf, Newt's tie looks like the 4th Doctor's scarf. You've got the fact that when Crowley is delivering the baby, then you've got Adam's dad calling him Doctor, and obviously Crowley's played by David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. You've got the fact that one of the cars' license plates is TARDIS spelled backwards and stuff like this. It was just a love letter to so many things I love, including the book, obviously. And it just, I love the series. I absolutely adore the series. Like, it's just sparked off so many things for me, and I just absolutely adore it, quite frankly. And I've got to stop talking, because I will rave about how much I love Good Omens for ages if I don't. So, essentially, Good Omens, perfect book, perfect TV adaptation. Absolutely perfect, absolutely brilliant, just perfection, absolute perfection. And with that, that is the end of the popular opinions book tag. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below with some of your answers to this. I'd love to know. I'll also leave a link down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!